I'd like to welcome everyone to our July the 20th Planning Board meeting. Those in the audience, those that are joining by television, especially like to recognize Commissioner Tom Colson for all his support he's given this planning board, every meeting we have. And I'd like to recognize the Mayor of Grimeston here, Miss Ellen Ford, who used to be our clerk of court and have a very distinguished record of public service, and her two commissioners here. At this time, we have our roll call.
Here. Lyman Hardy. Here. R.J. Hemby.
Here.
Anthony Herron. Ricky Hines.
Here.
Kenneth Ross.
Here.
Danny Smith.
Here.
And Mr. Chairman, Johnny Penner, Aaron Hines, Matt Nobles, and Clayton Malloy Jr. will not be present tonight.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. At this time, we all stand and we have our prayer by faith, barefoot, and the pledge of allegiance by Lyman Hardy.
Oh God, we come into your presence tonight, thanking you for the many blessings and the many answered prayers in all of our lives. And as we go about take part in this business session tonight, we pray, Lord, that you would just meet the needs and everything work out according to your will. Have your will and way. And again, thank you for this day. In your name, amen.
Amen. Face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have approval of the minutes of our May 18th meeting. Have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, let's have a second.
Second it.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
At this time, if Brian Jones will come up and with our development review.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As always, it's a pleasure to be in front of you tonight presenting our one and only preliminary plat for the development review section of our agenda. So this preliminary plat is proposed subdivision Summer Place. It's out on 33 East, west of its intersection with Eagles Nest Road. This is actually going to be in the municipal limits of the town of Grimeston. 234 lots on 88 acres. There's a overall vicinity site map. So this one's kind of unusual for us, being it is in the town of Grimeston. The town of Grimeston and the county have an interlocal agreement that we administer our subdivision ordinance within their town limits. So basically, we're the town's consultants on this to make sure that this follows all the regulations of the subdivision ordinance. This is just an aerial photo of the entire tract. The overall concept or overall picture of the entire subdivision, and I'll zoom down in on a couple just to point out a lot of different things. There's a lot of stuff going on this map, so we want to make sure we kind of take it all in. So here's our, the entrance there. You can see right there where it says the Century House. A big thing here that they're going to be required to do is a deceleration lane. It's going to be right coming, going back in toward Greenville. So you can see there, they will have an emergency access. Instead of 2 inches, they'll just have a proposed emergency access for your emergency vehicles, fire trucks, ambulances, things of that nature, to make sure they got adequate access into that neighborhood. Here you can also see a proposed turn lane coming from Greenville in toward Grimeston into the neighborhood. So here's basically the front portion of the property. This is basically going to be around about phase 1. There's some additional lots other than phase 1, but I just wanted to point out a couple things. They're highlighted right now as the lift station for the sewer. All the sewer lines are going to be center line of the road. Here's a stormwater stormwater basin pond. It's going to, basically the detention pond to slow up the stormwater leaving the site. And you can see there, these are just some drainage easements and some all the stormwater facilities that are going to actually kind of pour into that pond so that water can be captured there before it releases down toward Avon Road. Another thing to point out is these houses won't be served by roadside or curbside mailboxes. They'll have cluster mailboxes. Grimes and Post Office has recommended these two spots here highlighted in green for those kiosks or those cluster boxes. So the back portion, you see back here along the rear, there's a severe slope going down into that electrical easement down in the back. Some more drainage easements and stormwater facilities that are going to address the flow and capture of that stormwater. Stub outs there highlighted in purple. Without having that second access, this was really important to have that interconnectivity. So we got two stub outs, one to each side of that property. Here's another proposed location for the mail kiosk or mail cluster box. I do want to point out that we do have, like you said, the mayor of Grimes and pro tem, the town's attorney, got the project engineer, and actually the town's consultant engineer, all present in the audience tonight. So if we got any technical questions or anything you feel like we need them to answer, we surely can address that with them. Moving forward, just some site comments and requirements. The site is not located in the 100-year floodplain, so we won't have to worry about any floodplain requirements. Town of Grimes is zoned as R10, which is a minimum of 10,000 square foot. Electricity is going to be GUC, and water is going to be Eastern Pines. Adjacent property owners have been notified. Staff has not received any concerns or comments from adjacent property owners. Moving forward, they will be required to have a construction plan and a soil erosion plan submitted and approved before they can start construction. Big note of importance here, the streets will not be maintained by NCDOT. This will be a situation where the town has to accept maintenance of these streets. I gave you guys a handout. Stroud Engineering for the town has come up with some requirements of development that would be part of that agreement between the developer and the town to make sure that maintenance acceptance is done right, and make sure that the town accepts that maintenance when the time is appropriate, when the construction's been done, when the certain density, things of that nature. And that's something that the developer and the town will have to work out. And that agreement has not been finalized. They have been talking about it, and that's something that we're going to recommend be done before construction plan are submitted. So we want to see that agreement between the developer and the town, just to make sure that there's nothing that surprises the developer nor the town regarding the street maintenance. And that street maintenance also including the stormwater facilities, common areas, things of that nature. And some of those things will be a private HOA that will take over, and that would be for them to work out. The county will not be involved in any long-term maintenance. So some additional conditions and requirements. Common area, the landscape buffer lot at the front of development needs to be labeled non-buildable. There's a description in lot 41 that needs to match the lot description for common area between lots 35 and 36. There was just a discrepancy between the actual map and a note, so they just need to correct that. Note 16, there's a requirement in the ordinance that requires the longest, I guess requires for the map to show how far away the fire hydrant is. This one, Note 16 said it was the furthest from the furthest, and it was a little bit further than what we intended. So the intent was to ensure that the largest distance between the proposed lots and the proposed fire hydrants meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance. So that note didn't jive with what we wanted, so just have it removed. As I was talking about the HOA, the long-term maintenance of the stormwater facilities shall be the responsibility of the homeowners association. HOA must be established prior to the final plat recordation. Site distance triangles need to be labeled. Further details regarding stormwater and sewage lines, that will be required. We'll typically get those during the construction phase. The post office will agree to 3 mail kiosks. Those were noted on the plat, if you remember. Those kiosks will be at lots 226 and 108. Propose the location of the third kiosk to be located near lots 159 or 165. And I will say that the planning department, we don't have any regulations involving that. That's a federal regulations from the United States Postal Service. So that will ultimately be between the developer and the post office. But they've obviously got their locations where they want them, and so that'll be something that the finalized location will have to be worked out with the post office. Again, roads will not be accepted on the state's maintenance system. DOT driveway permit is required and the specifications for both the left and right turning lanes can be decided at that time. It's recommended that adequate land be reserved for space to build these structures, possibly as much as 300 feet or more for each direction. It's also noted that the Pitt County Future Thoroughfare Plan calls for this roadway to be updated in the future, and the probable right-of-way for the footprint will be 130 feet. Reserve parcel A in the rear between lots 35 and 36, and it has not been changed to reflect the future access to the north and remains labeled as common area. So they just need to make sure they ensure that that's properly identified. GUC will require a 10-foot electrical easement on the opposite side of road from the water main. Water lines will need to be consistently placed on one side of the road. If sidewalks are added, the easement will need to be behind the sidewalks. Eastern Pines Water Corporation, they had engineering firm run a hydraulic analysis, and they do have enough water supply to provide water service to this proposed development. Here's some site pictures. You're just looking straight at it from 33. That's going back toward the town of Grimeston, back toward Greenville, Simpson, Greenville on 33. This is actually at the back of the property looking toward Highway 33. So with all that being said, the Technical Review Committee did meet, saw this proposed plan, recommends conditional approval. This time I'll entertain any comments, questions.
Does anybody on the board have any questions of Brian? And we do have 2 stub outs on that. You got it in the plans.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's my main concern at myself, is making sure that in case of emergency, got stub out so that they can put another lane out there.
Absolutely.
Anybody else got any questions? Well, at this time, is anyone from the audience? I got Joseph Smith had signed up. Did he want to speak? Did get your name? And
Joseph L. Smith, property owner on 6181 Highway 33 East. I own the corner, about 600 road frontage on Avon and Highway 33. And I just came today to see what about the water runoff is my big concern. Because when I bought the first lot 20 years ago, there was no drainage there. I put a ditch in. My neighbor behind me has done a lot of work putting new culverts in under his property. So my big concern is the water runoff. What's it gonna do to my property? Because that's gonna be a whole lot of water runoff. And I know when they put Eagle's Nest in, that brought a whole lot more water down to us. And I think in the last 5 years, the counties came out and put new culverts under the road right there in front of my driveway. Seeing them putting the sewer lines in and the culverts in, there's not a whole lot more that can be done right there. So that's my big concern, is the water runoff. And that's just why I came today, just to see what was going on and what they were gonna address about the water runoff.
Brian, those retention ponds, are they gonna take care of that water runoff?
If you don't mind, I'd like to have the project engineer come up and
Okay,
talk a
that'll
little
be
bit about
fine.
it, just because he
Somebody
can
needs,
speak a little bit about
Okay.
the calculations they've done to make sure that those are adequate enough.
Good evening. My name is John Thomas. I'm with Thomas Engineering in New Bern. And certainly, this is a preliminary, and we've not gotten into the actual details of the stormwater other than just a very preliminary look at it. Once we get into that and the construction plans, which will be submitted to the county, all those things will be taken care of. As far as runoff, we have state regulations and guidelines that we have to adhere to. We can't discharge at any faster rate than what's already being discharged now. That's the reason for the pond. It's not really a stormwater pond for treatment. There's no requirement for that on this particular piece of property, but what is required is that we retain the water and release it slowly.
Well, I hope that answers Mr. Smith's concerns at this time. Okay. How about John Thomas, Mr. John Thomas? That was him? Oh, okay. Any other comments from anyone? Well, I'm glad to see something going to ground, because that's a town that really needs some buildings down there. They're good folks. What's the pleasure of the board, Dan?
Mr. Chairman, I would offer that, in the way of a motion, that the necessary, I guess, all additions, alterations that's been so stated, or duly stated, that be adhered to in the motion and for approval.
Okay.
Second it.
All right, have a motion that we approve, and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it. Okay, thank you, Brian. All right, Mr. Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, just would like to acknowledge the good working relationship so far, along with the town of Grimesland as well as the project engineer. This is a type project that Brian's mentioned that we're not necessarily accustomed to with some of the improvements that are going in, specifically the sewer, the sanitary sewer system, and also the streets being maintained by the town. So all said, there'll be a lot more information gathered by the time the construction plan is brought in. On to the informational items. There are several of these starting on page 19 of your agenda package. Just wanted to give you an update. Typically, as you know, we update our work program for our department every 6 months. Certainly this aligns with the new budget year, so on page 19 and 20 you'll see some of our current programs and our ongoing programs. Specifically of note is the Candlewick area sewer project. We mentioned we don't deal with sewer a whole lot. This is a new project for us as well, where we're running with grant funds, running sewer out to Candlewick, which is a development off Stantonsburg Road, about 3 miles outside the city of Greenville, heading west. So that should be completed, not just this coming fiscal year. It actually will be June of 2018. So we'll be working on that for quite a while to come. Southwest Bypass Corridor Land Use Plan, we mentioned about this last year. We feel like we'll be able to initiate this in the upcoming fiscal year. The city of Greenville has already initiated, as part of their land use planning project, a portion of the area to be covered. We feel like it's necessary with this project coming online in about 3 years, with the bypass being completed. We need to have some additional land use plans in place and possibly some changes to our zoning ordinance to go along with those land use plan changes. Next up, Woodmore Drive Street Assessment. This is a new project that is anticipated for the upcoming year. This is one of those proposed public streets that, for whatever reason, didn't get taken over by DOT as anticipated. In turn, there are several problems with the maintenance of the street, and in turn, they're now coming before the commissioners to request some assistance in getting the roads brought up to standard, and then DOT would take them over. So this will be our pilot project. This is the first one we've dealt with, and I'll just say we've got a long learning curve on this particular process. It is state statute driven. There are a lot of steps to go through. We would hope to complete this if all runs true to form by the end of this fiscal year. The comprehensive transportation plan, we had a transportation meeting this morning. Commissioner Colson was there. One thing that was mentioned, the Department of Transportation recognizes the county's plan is pretty much outdated right now. We're looking to have that initiated according to DOT. It's about a 2-year planning process. Those of you that have been on the board before or have had another tenure on the board, you may recall the plan does typically involve the planning board with some public forums and gathering input, so that will be coming before you at certain times. The riparian buffer ordinance amendments, those are things that have been put in place in the past. The state has changed some of the state statutes, so in turn, we may need to move forward with some ordinance amendments. A couple other things, we are also actively involved in recreation in our office, and one thing that we're looking to do is expand some resources out at the Alice F. King District Park. You probably were familiar, there was a greenhouse facility out there that has since been removed, and that's in a nice area that has some large trees, and we're hoping to turn that into more of a passive recreation facility, maybe with picnic tables and all, so people could enjoy that area. We're also looking at extension of a trail facility in that area that would be somewhat shaded, because just like with the weather we've had over the last few weeks, let's just face it, folks would prefer to be in a shaded environment versus out in the open. A few other things, our software enhancements to our permitting software, we're also looking at that. And just so you know, you deal with some of the rezoning changes, as well as we bring you up to date on special use and conditional use permits. We go out annually to do inspections to make sure that the plans that were approved or rezoning activities that were taking place, that those are in compliance. So we're out this summer with our annual inspection, and we'll be reporting back to you any compliance or violation issues that we run across. Any questions about the departmental work program? A lot of things going on, so we'll be busy over the next year. You'll be coming along with us. Just some other updates to bring you up to date on what you dealt with at your last meeting. The mini storage rezoning request on Eastern Pines Road was taken before the commissioners, and that ordinance map amendment or rezoning was denied at the commissioners meeting. A couple of other planning grants that we're dealing with, urgent repair programs. We're wrapping up one for this year, and in 2016 we'll be starting a new program, so that funding's just been made available. The Emergency Solutions Grant, we did receive supplemental funding for our rapid rehousing program, and we'll be using that through the remainder of this year. One thing I mentioned to the chair earlier and want to make everyone aware, next year the planning conference for the North Carolina Planning Association will be handed to us here in Greenville and Pitt County. We'll be bringing in hopefully between 400 to 500 folks for about a 3-day stint here. A lot of, yeah, not quite 3 year, 3-day stint, and we're hoping that we're able to certainly get your involvement. We want to have some mobile workshops, so we want to certainly bring the folks in, show them what we've got to offer here, so maybe they'll return in the future. We have been after the association to bring the conference here for many years, and we're glad to finally get it here. So mark your calendars, 2017, sometime in September, October, we'll be bringing you updates back. A couple other things, we do have our monthly reports in your package tonight, some other articles that Tab's collected over the last month or so. That's in your package, and a lot of good stuff. We have a new county website or interface with our website. On the screen, you'll see how to access the planning department information, and if you get a chance, you'll see that when you go online now, it's a whole different look. So our public information office, as well as Tab and Tracy Cash from our office, been instrumental in getting the information migrated over. Take a look at it if you get a chance. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. Welcome any questions.
Anybody have any questions of the chairman? All right, be no further business, we'll stand adjourned.